a GoPro camera, and backpack with ceramic tiles as potential body armor. A witness saw a man fleeing, giving information to authorities critical to his arrest. The acting Secret Service director saying he's talked to Trump.
Have you briefed former President Trump on your findings so far, and has his campaign asked for any changes in his security going forward after yesterday?
So I've had a conversation with the former president. The president is aware that he has highest levels of protection that the Secret Service is providing him.
And we're learning more about the suspect's background. His North Carolina home was searched by authorities. Court records show a lengthy criminal history, including a conviction for possession of a machine gun.
He had some problems with feds and stuff. I would never thought he was trying to kill the president. But
Ruth was an outspoken supporter of Ukraine who visited the country in 2022.
Thousands of people from every country around the world to come to Kyiv.
On social media, the suspect called Trump his, quote, choice in 2016, who had since become a disappointment. Ruth contributed to Democrats in 2019 and voted in a Democratic primary in 2020. He also criticized Trump, writing in April, quote, democracy is on the ballot and we cannot lose. Trump arguing the suspect, quote, believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris, and he acted on it. Comments echoing last week's debate.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy.
Trump has also used incendiary language against Democrats, and authorities have not yet revealed a motive in either incident. Vice President Harris condemned political violence, writing, quote, I am thankful that former President Trump is safe. And this from President Biden.
In America, we resolve our differences peacefully at the ballot box, not at the end of a gun.
NBC's Garrett Haake with that report. While Donald Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, lays blame on Democrats for rhetoric leading to the attempted assassinations, he has continuously used inflammatory rhetoric for years. Look no further than what happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, more than a month earlier. Trump tweeted out, big protest in D.C. on January 6, referring to the day Congress was set to formally certify Joe Biden's victory in the Electoral College, writing, quote, be there, will be wild. More than 1,000 Americans have been convicted in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. 350 trials are still pending, and the FBI continues its investigation. In September of 2020, then President Trump failed to condemn white supremacist groups and their role in violence in American cities, calling it solely a left-wing problem. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, Trump said. I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left because this is not a right-wing problem. Even before those comments, Trump defended white nationalist protesters in 2017 following a violent and deadly confrontation in Charlottesville, Virginia, saying, quote, there were very fine people on both sides. Back in 2016, when he said that his supporters are so loyal that he would not lose backers even if he were to shoot someone in the middle of downtown Manhattan. Donald Trump's continued use of inflammatory rhetoric spans nearly a decade.
This is the day we take our country back. So I got a little notice in case you see the security guys. We have wonderful security guys. They said, Mr. Trump, there may be somebody with tomatoes in the audience. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise. I promise. There won't be so much because the courts agree with us, too. What's going on in this country?
We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. It's our final battle. We're going to win that battle. We're going to turn this nation around. We're going to make America great again. America first. But it's our final battle. It's the last battle. It's the last shot at it. Because they're down the road. They've taken it down the road with corrupt elections and lots of other things. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. If we don't win on November 5th, I think our country is going to cease to exist. It could be the last election we ever have. I actually mean that. We don't win. I think this could be the last election we ever have.
Comrade Kamala Harris, you're fired! You're fired! Get out! Get out! She shouldn't be there anyway. She got no votes. She's a threat to democracy, right? That's what they say. They always say, Donald Trump, you know, it's a soundbite for them. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Now she's a threat.
I mean, there's so many, Jonathan Lemire, there's so many examples where he, during January 6th, as Peter Baker wrote in the New York Times today, he suggested that maybe Mike Pence deserved the lynching. He's talked about treason and executing chairman of the Joint Chiefs, his chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley. He's talked about being a dictator from day one. He's talked about terminating the Constitution if that's what was required for him to overturn the 2020 election. I could go down the list. He's agreed with the idea that Liz Cheney should face a military tribunal. He's actually, when he didn't like our COVID reporting and the fact that I was quoting what he'd say during COVID, it was talking about how I needed to be arrested and executed. And you can go down the list. Even the ABC, the two ABC people this past week, his supporters were saying that they needed to be arrested for treason and ABC needed to be taken off the air. I could go on for the next 3 hours. The fact that, and this is what I see people doing sometimes in the mainstream media, certainly on some of the pro-Trump stations, but also sadly on mainstream newsletters, trying to flatten out the differences and preaching this phony moral relativism that somehow the rhetoric from the left and the right are equally inflammatory. It's grotesque. They know they're lying. And again, we can keep going down the list. Feel free to add on if you'd like. But it's been 9 years of talking about beating the hell out of people. It's been 9 years about talking about terminating the Constitution. It's been 9 years of mocking and ridiculing Nancy Pelosi's husband in his 80s for being brutalized by somebody screaming what they were screaming in the Capitol on January the 6th. Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? And so they think they can gaslight us and say, oh, the Democrats are really the ones that are fueling the rhetoric, the violent rhetoric. It's just not true. It's an out and out lie. And I certainly hope that Democrats aren't cowed by this lie.
It is certainly not true. And we are seeing members of the media and Republicans trying to work the refs right here to do that, to play this both sides game when it's simply not accurate or appropriate. From the very beginning of his political career, a political career that was birthed on the back of a racist lie, birtherism, continued with incendiary offensive language about Mexicans being rapists when he kicked off his campaign after coming down the escalator in June of 2015. And ever since, he has embraced dehumanizing rhetoric and he's embraced violent rhetoric. He's embraced racist rhetoric, and he has spurred on his followers to commit crimes in his name, and culminating in storming the Capitol. But he's not done. He's also threatened that there would be a bloodbath if he weren't elected president this November. This is a hallmark of who he is, and we have seen him inspire in both big ways and small. And I count myself as among the many members of the media who have been threatened, who have had to have law enforcement involved because of Trump's supporters inspired by what he said. And there's simply no comparison to what is said from the other side. Now, let's take this moment, guys, just to remind everyone what Vice President Harris and President Biden have been saying consistently the last 48 hours since this assassination attempt was reported in Florida, saying there's no place for political violence, none whatsoever. President Biden even called Donald Trump yesterday and expressed relief that he was okay.
And Mike Barnicle, we have a stark example of everything we're talking about in front of us right now. We just heard from Gene Robinson, who's in Springfield, Ohio, on the ground there as 2 more elementary schools face bomb threats. Now 6 schools in Springfield having to close for periods of time because of bomb threats. Kids missing in these early days of school, parents having to deal with all that directly because of a lie that's being told, because of fear being whipped up about a group of legal immigrants, Haitian immigrants. And so, Mike, we don't have to look far for examples of J.D. Vance, the running mate, the senator from Ohio, who represents the people he's putting in danger of what can happen from this rhetoric.
No, we don't, Willie. We don't at all. Every day, it's right in front of us, all day, every day. And what we do know is that the loudest voices in this country, and there's no voice louder than the former president's voice, those voices and his voice are heard immediately in the darkest corners of social media, where we don't know what happens. You don't know what happens out there when someone grasps the seed of an idea planted by a loud voice, a loud, cantankerous voice. What we do know is that there are many, many people in this country who haven't really paid attention to this enough. Pay attention, America. Pay attention to what's happening around us. Pay attention to the anger, the fake anger. Pay attention to the false charges made against immigrants, in this case, Springfield, Ohio, Haitians, okay? Yesterday, in Florida, the U.S. attorney in charge of the Southern District in Florida, his name is Mackenzie LaPointe. He's a Marine Corps veteran of the Gulf War. He's an immigrant. He was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He's like millions of other Americans who live here who are immigrants. Pay attention to what's happening around us, please.
Yeah, I want to read.
It's just reading about him.
Yeah, and Mike, you were talking about the words that are used, and reading Kevin Williamson's extraordinary column in the Dispatch this week, The Exotic Cat Eaters of Springfield, Ohio. He talks about actually how Haitians in that community have helped revive the community, actually lifted that community up financially. But then he says this, following up on what you were saying about J.D. Vance and Donald Trump's lies. Words are powerful. Words from powerful people are more powerful still. Yeah. And the silence of powerful people is powerful too. As of this writing, Springfield schools have been closed for 2 days in a row. Bomb threats. City Hall was evacuated. Bomb threat. Other municipal buildings, bomb threats. An elementary school, bomb threat. 2 medical centers, bomb threats.
It's amazing.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is on Truth Social posting images of kittens holding a sign reading, "Don't let them eat us. Vote for Trump." And then Kevin Williamson asks, do you know what the most important word in that sentence? Them. Them.
Yeah.
It's always about them.
Yep.
And Kevin goes through this article, and he's talking about exactly what Trump and Vance are doing. And I recommend everybody go to the Dispatch and read what Kevin writes about, because Mike Barnicle, he talks about how they are borrowing from European right-wing populism, where it's toxic nationalism and a healthy dose of racism.